Well, I certainly woke up and did something stupid today. Guess we'll have to talk about it. So I woke up this morning and I did something that my girlfriend had asked me to do. She, the other day, asked me if I would trim back my mustache because when she was kissing me, it was tickling her face the wrong way, or perhaps just offensive for whatever reason. It was getting a little unruly. If you go back to yesterday's video, you can see just how thick that mustache had become. So I went down this morning into the bathroom, prepared for my morning shower. I grabbed my clippers and I used the wrong guard. And as it turns out, I took too much off. Now I end up looking like a techno Amish guy, or perhaps a Gen X pharaoh. Like, I don't know exactly what's going on here. The good news for me is that my mustache grows back quite quickly, and hopefully within a few days, it'll look normal again. What does not look normal at all right now is the state of the world. Yesterday, I spoke on the brand new format, new episode of the Daily Octane. I spoke about Mr. and Mrs. McCloskey. I believe it's McCloskey, who are the lawyers in St. Louis. Yes, who are the lawyers in St. Louis, Mark McCloskey, who came out of his house, which is not actually a house. It is definitely a mansion, toting an AR-15, his wife carrying a small handgun, and they proceeded to attempt to intimidate Black Lives protesters who had entered in their neighborhood. Now, I spoke about this last night. I admonished their behavior. I also poked fun at the fact that they had no idea, like, as if they looked like they knew what they were doing with those weapons in their hands. And then I had a couple of commenters right here on YouTube post comments that to something to the effect of they should have killed them, and being the protesters, the McCloskey should have shot the protesters. Another gentleman said, well, did they trespass or did they not trespass? Now, we live in a society for some reason that has decided that capital punishment for small crimes is okay. I don't understand. George Floyd was murdered for possibly writing a bad check. Breonna Taylor was killed for sleeping in her home and being in the wrong house at the wrong time. And yet these people that are commenting on my YouTube channel and also are probably commenting all over social media are saying that these two very white, very wealthy individuals should have shot protesters simply for being in their neighborhoods. Now, the other argument was that they felt fearful for their lives because the Black Lives protesters had stormed their neighborhood and had broken down gates in order to enter. And right here, I'm going to show you a video. This simply is not true. This is them entering into this neighborhood, this really ritzy 1%er neighborhood. That gate is not smashed open to me. It has not been knocked down. It looks pretty well open. This very large house that you're going to see right there, that large house is the McCloskey home where Mr. and Mrs. McCloskey walked out of, brandishing their weapons in order to intimidate the Black Lives protesters. Now, you may have seen that video. It is obnoxious how they chose to behave, and luckily, the internet today is absolutely full of things like this. And I've seen Mrs. McCloskey as the Hamburglar. People are just absolutely having a ball with Photoshop and creating all kinds of really cool things. I think sometimes our internet warriors are the greatest asset we have. Now, another thing that's going on, as I spoke about yesterday, was this continued uptick in cases of COVID infection across the country, specifically in the southern states, specifically in Republican states, Florida, Texas, Arizona, South Carolina, these being the big offenders. Governor Cuomo here in New York State now has added several more states to the list, and that's just just the tip of the iceberg. You look here at the current cases. Now, this is where we're at. This is New York. This is U.S. cases of COVID, and you can see in April this was our initial climb. Now, given the big chunk of these were in New York. I mean, we absolutely take blame for that. The infection rate in New York State, specifically in the beginning of this, was extraordinary. But through social distancing and through wearing of masks in many places and closing down economies and closing down businesses and limiting travel, we started to get this under control. And then the Republican governors in many states, and even in New York, we've opened up to a certain extent, but we are going in the wrong direction right now. And this is not what the rest of the world is doing. This is getting incredibly scary as we start to tick back up again in an extraordinary way. You have businesses in many states that are open that probably should not. People are not wearing masks. I don't understand why this continues to be a point of conjecture with people whether or not there is benefit to the masks. It's just simple logic that if you limit the amount of viral spread, no, a mask, especially a cloth mask, is not going to stop coronavirus from spreading completely, but it's going to slow the transmission. It's all about viral load and how much likelihood you have of contracting the virus. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about outside of the virus, the news coming out, I spoke on this yesterday as well, but more of the facts are coming to light as of exactly what was going on with Russia paying Taliban and Iraqi, no, I believe I'm wrong about this. I think it was Afghani. Was it Taliban? But anyway, Al-Qaeda, one of these things, I don't have all the information right now, but regardless, Russian officials paying troops in foreign soil to attack and kill bounties for U.S. military members. There is now proof through our intelligence agency that our president, Donald J. Trump, was briefed on the fact that this was happening. Shortly after the briefing, he had a conversation with Vladimir Putin, and that topic was never actually brought up. He never admonished the head of Russia. He never even made a mention of it in the conversation. And then now, when being called on it, he is once again lying, which he is incredibly good at, and saying that he knew nothing about it. It's absolutely tragic to me. I don't understand how even our Republican leaders in the Senate and in the House are not calling for much quicker reaction to this. Our local congressman here in the New York 24, John Katko, he has said that there needs to be something done. There needs to be an investigation into this, but he falls very short of saying anything specifically about Donald Trump. He does not mention him by name. He simply says that an investigation needs to be done. He's a member of the Armed Services Committee in the House, and he says that an investigation needs to be done into Russia's act in this. No mention of the complicity of our president or how we got to where we are. Another thing that's going on right now, which is extraordinary, is that news hit today that the NBA, when they begin playing basketball again at Walt Disney World, they will be painting Black Lives Matter on the court of the basketball stadium that they're playing in. Now, I am not going to show the unabashed racist comments that are all over news articles like this one here. I've seen them specifically on Facebook in many of the Disney fan groups that I happen to be a part of. As I mentioned yesterday, I'm a huge Disney fan, but there is a lot of anger over this, and I continue to see this need that people have when trying to minimize this movement. They don't call them protesters anymore. They refer to them as looters and rioters, that everybody is looting and rioting, and that's just not the case. You know, you go back to the video that I showed before of the people walking, the protesters walking into that St. Louis, that ritzy St. Louis 1%er neighborhood. They're not looting. They're not rioting. That was a peaceful march, a protest through that neighborhood. They're here. I'm in just outside of Syracuse, New York. We have protests that march through our city every single day. And since the very, very beginning of this, there has been no rioting. There's been no looting. There's been no hostility. Now, there are small areas of this country, cities primarily, in which you do see some violence still. But that is not the norm. That is the very small minority that is doing that. And yet, people that want to diminish the value of this movement and the purpose of why it is going on, they continue to call the entire thing rioting and looting, and that is the voice of oppression. That is how you diminish the quality of the message that's trying to be spread. And it really is just absolutely pathetic that people are continuing to not listen to what this is, to not understand how prevalent this is and what percentage of the population, specifically the black and brown community, when you compare the percentage of their population to the percentage of the white population, and then the percentage of young black and brown men that are being shot by police compared to the number of white men that are being shot by police. It is extraordinary, the difference. And never mind the other aspects of our continued downplay of the importance of the African American community to this country as a whole. They endured years of slavery. They endured years of Jim Crow laws. They've endured years of gentrification of our cities in this country. They have endured years of incarceration of black men, which have created broken families and have created this culture of criminality for the smallest of crimes. And it is just an absolute travesty. And I don't want to go off on a huge tangent here, specifically about Black Lives Matter tonight, because I am just honestly, I'm a middle-class white man of middle age. It is not my message. I am a supporter. I support everything they are doing, up to and including defunding the police. I wish that we could find better language for what defunding the police means, because the other side is focusing specifically on that word defund and trying to make it sound as if we are trying to eliminate police. And that is actually not the case. Law enforcement is specifically important in this country. Unfortunately, we live in a gun culture. We live in a country that was raised up and grew out of this idea of revolution. And then we followed it with the Wild West and wars among our native people, the white settlers coming in and destroying large populations of indigenous people and stealing their land, and then the gunslinging Wild West and all of those things, the cowboys and all that stuff. We have a culture that is born and bred of violence, and so now we have to take a police force across this country that's been militarized. They carry very similar weapons to what our troops overseas carry in combat theaters. And that is not how this is supposed to be. Some of the lowest crime countries in the world, their police officers don't even carry a sidearm. They only carry batons. And yet we have law enforcement officers that are readily uniformed and carrying full combat gear, riot gear, masks and shields and bulletproof armor and heavy assault weapons. I mean, it's just not normal. Something should be wrong. Now, do we need police? Yes, we absolutely need police. We do have a violent culture in this country. But we do not need a military wearing a badge, which is what we've ended up with. And that needs to come to an end. So, again, I want to keep these rants short. This is a new format for me. It's a new thing that's going to take some getting used to. Again, I'm shooting this live with a single edit. Unfortunately, somebody knocked on my door in the middle of this one right here, so I do have to piece that together before uploading it to YouTube. But I hope you like what you're seeing. I actually hope that some of you disagree with me. I like the comments. I got comments last night. That's great. If you don't like what I'm saying, say something about it. Open the discussion up. I'll happily talk with you. Find me on my website as well, thedailyoctane.com. Find me on Facebook at The Daily Octane on Facebook. I will happily interact with anybody that wants to comment on what they find. But like my page. Subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. Like this video if you do. If you don't, then don't like the video. I don't care. But I just need this platform to get my voice out, because I have a lot that I want to say, and I don't feel like social media posts are the way to do it, because it's a quick snippet and then I got to move on with the rest of my day. But this allows me to record my thoughts, if not only for me, but for anybody else that maybe agrees with me or wants to debate with me. I am happy to open this up as the forum for that. So thank you for watching tonight's episode of The Daily Octane. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys tomorrow.